Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of The Game Trail here on the Jurassic Park Podcast. Today we are incredibly excited to be talking about Jurassic World Evolution 2, after the recent world premiere of the Chaos Theory mode. I was lucky enough to get to play an advanced copy of the game, and I have two very special guests to talk through the upcoming sequel of Evolution with me. So Conor and James, why don't you introduce yourselves?
It's Mikey first, isn't it? Hi, Conor, otherwise known as BestInSlot, or Conor Beavers, according to the Zoom call.
Oh no!
Yeah, we've witnessed the marriage live on today's recording. And James, I don't think you need to introduce yourself, but if you would like to anyway, feel free.
Wow, worthy of an introduction now, am I? Yes, well, my name is James Beavers. I go by TheGamingBeaver on YouTube. I do all sorts of things dinosaur related. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you both for taking the time out of your Saturday night to do this. For anyone who doesn't know, and I'd be a bit weirded out if you do know, we are currently recording this at gone 10 o'clock at night, so it's quite a late last-minute recording that's come together today. And we're really here to kind of chat all about the upcoming sequel for Evolution, and also our recent experiences with it. So I think with that said, to kind of really kick things off, it would be really nice to get a flavour of your initial impressions on the game, so everyone listening can kind of just use that as, I suppose, a base for what we're going to go ahead and talk about. So obviously this is the second time that you've both got your hands on it at this point, at least that we all know. So I am going to pass it over to you, James. What were your kind of initial impressions with the sequel, and what did you think of it when you first got hands on?
I think if you've played Jurassic World Evolution, the first one, a lot of it will be very familiar to you.
Yeah.
It's interesting going from, the original and then seeing the whole mod community for it explode. And now with Jurassic World Evolution 2, it's taken basically all of that and any sort of things that were wrong with the first one and improved on it and made it better, basically. So I would say if you've enjoyed the first one, you'll enjoy this one too.
Cool. And then Conor, did you have anything to add to that?
First of all, I want to say his introduction was much better than mine. Sorry about that.
Let's just go back. Let's restart the show.
Oh God, no.
Hi, I'm Conor Beavers, otherwise known as BestInSlot. Yeah, basically the same thing. My actual first impression, I was overwhelmed initially. There's a few new mechanics that got above me a little bit on my first and second gameplay session. But generally speaking, yeah, same idea. If you liked Evolution, this is Evolution, but better. It's just what it feels like the game it maybe should have been in the first place. If you weren't sold on Evolution, I don't know if this will be the thing to convince you, but for us who did, it's just more of what we liked, really. But even better.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. It's funny you say about sort of overcoming new mechanics. So as you'll know from our discussion earlier, I am a console player. So getting access to this, the big caveat for me was obviously it was through PC, and I have never played on a PC before. So I went to the extent of buying a plug and play controller for my Mac to rig it all up so I could play on controller as if I was playing normally. And then on the day that we were recording, my controller stopped working. So I had to very quickly during the session learn how to play on PC, which was a fun experience.
I bet.
Best way to learn things is trial by fire, I think.
Throw him in the deep end, yeah.
I think I did all right. There's just a lot of static me looking around the map in my gameplay, but it's fine. It took me about half the gameplay session to work out that I could actually pivot the axis of the map as well. So, swings and roundabouts, right? So one thing I really wanted to touch on was some of the biggest differences here compared to the first game. And I think I'll bring this over to you, Conor, because you make the point that there are definitely a lot of similarities with the first Evolution title. So I'm interested, what were some of the biggest changes that you noticed in the sequel?
Yeah, whilst it's fundamentally the same game, it feels very, very different to play. As much as we have all these new, the aquatic creatures and everything and all, that's very different. In terms of, like, your minute-to-minute gameplay, the scientist mechanic and the time manipulation mechanics, those two, I think, really changes how the game feels in a huge way. That's gonna... Yeah, it changes everything. It stops that slightly mobile game feeling we used to have, and everything's a lot quicker. There's so much more to do constantly, and I'd say that will stand out over time more than basically everything else.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. James, did you have anything else you wanted to add on that when it comes to the biggest differences?
Well, I think he's kind of covered it, really. I will say, 100% with the researchers. And I found that, strangely enough, I wasn't, probably because I'm recording this and I'm very focused on, when we're recording sort of stuff like this, we're trying to show everything. But I couldn't, or I didn't, look at my dinosaurs as much.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that when it comes out, I will do that, and I'm not focused on is this researcher burnt out or yada 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 sort of thing.
I think you make a really interesting point that actually your attention this time around is a lot more divided between different things, because I found that since putting out the content around the game, a lot of the questions have been about the dinosaurs, and my response has been the exact same, which is, I looked at the T-Rex a little bit and I saw a Dilophosaurus once and that was it. So I have no idea about the dinosaurs in the sequel.
What
really
dinosaurs?
Yeah.
This is Scientist Simulator 2021,
yeah.
The scientists at least have some little personality. That I love their bios and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some of them believe in ghosts, some of them want to go visit Area 51. They're very interesting people.
Yeah,
Is this who's Injuns hiring?
They are the only people I will hire for my park, just the weirdest ones available.
This explains a lot about why things keep going wrong in these parks,
Yeah, they want to see some people die and get some ghosts out there, so they're like, just break out, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Oh, that's some like crazy lore.
So obviously, as we've touched on, there are quite a few new additions in addition to the things that already feel quite familiar. And we've seen a lot of different ones in different aspects of the game. So there's aquatic dinosaurs, there's a brand new ranger check-in system, and there's lots of other features. So James, I'll bring this over to you. What sort of new additions to the game stood out to you the most?
New additions, you say, plural. You actually mentioned the Jeeps, and that was something that I almost forgot about.
Yeah.
But that is such a huge deal, because in the first one, your Jeeps just sat there unless you needed them to repair a fence or dart a dinosaur. But now they need to go around your park on a sort of regular basis to check in with your dinosaurs to make sure if they're all right. But I'd say as far as new additions, I think, Conor showcased it. I think was the only person that showcased it. Was that whole pack mechanic, the way the dinosaurs interact with each other. That's game-changing in a way.
Yeah, definitely. It really adds a lot more depth in terms of those inter-dinosaur interactions, which really wasn't there in the first game, so it's really interesting to see them building on that. Conor, was there anything else apart from the pack mechanics that really stands out to you as well?
Still, in terms of my favourite new additions, I would still say it's the dinosaur interaction, the pack hunting, and just the like we've seen the behaviours, the Rexes, where they've got like the play fighting or feeding together. All the dinosaurs have these little interactions as they walk past each other. It's a little bit more life in the game, and it makes the dinosaurs feel a little bit more realistic, which I really like, and they'll be much more interesting. Not that we'll get the opportunity, seemingly, but they'll be a lot more interesting to watch this time around, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when you go into something like capture mode in the original game and you really spend a lot of time looking at them, you really notice how sort of stagnant the animals are in the first game. And this time, I mean, during that capture session alone, there was the two T-Rexes kind of like nesting up with each other and interacting, and it just... It does a lot to make them feel a lot more alive, even though it doesn't really feel like a huge change. I think it's just like the right sort of level of stuff to make it feel a lot more organic than the first game.
For sure, yeah.
So, obviously, the most recent event has all been themed around Chaos Theory mode, and that's why we're here tonight, because we all got to play that and got to check it out. So I wanted to know what your initial impressions of the new mode were, and also in particular, what did you think about the fact that this time around they decided to include Jurassic Park San Diego? So I'll bring that to you first, Conor.
Well, initially it was just pure fanboyism overseeing the amphitheater, finally come to life. The guy who made it, Hobbs, I've forgotten his first name, obviously, just did an absolutely incredible job. Although I wish you could put water in it, but it looks great, and it's cool having San Diego there in the distance and all of that.
Yeah.
Chaos Mode itself was interesting. I mean, it didn't feel that far removed from, challenge mode and stuff like that. It's just, it's having that little unique amphitheater there was a nice addition, but beyond that, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. James, did you have anything else to add to that?
I'll play devil's advocate. So, yeah, in theory, Chaos Mode, it's a really good idea. While I was playing it, though, I was thinking, because it's all about what-if scenarios, wasn't the first game a what-if scenario? I mean, the whole campaign was, what if, we could make a park and all these islands. But it did quickly turn into... because I was kind of racing through it really quickly, trying to, get to an end, some sort of big reveal. And maybe there is, because I don't think anybody managed to get there, but it just turned into, hey, make a park, but we have an amphitheater in the middle. And when I think of what-if scenarios, I wanted it to be... I mean, you see in The Lost World, I think this auditorium or whatever it is in the city. And you see, Ian Malcolm and his red Camaro, or whatever it is, go through the city and stuff. I was thinking maybe, we'll have towns and things like that. Obviously, I'm asking way too much. But seeing Ian Malcolm coming back was a great addition. However, I really wish he was interacting with maybe some characters that I knew, because I don't think, apart from the scientist, I didn't really know any of those other characters. Like, where's Cabot? What's going on?
Yeah. No, I get that. I'm actually going to be starting a campaign to get Bernard, the InGen Docs guard, back in the game in time for launch. So appreciate any support on that. He's only named in the Lego Jurassic World game, but it's fine. He's official now.
Canon,
yeah. I think it's interesting that you brought up the presence of the city as well, because that was something that really stood out to me, as having that in kind of the background, and I don't really feel like they ever did anything not necessarily that intensive on systems or whatnot in the first game, but it kind of grounds down the idea that you're a lot closer to civilization in the sequel than you ever were in the first game. And I do wonder if maybe that will factor in later in the mode, like you say. Like maybe if the last objective you have to complete is stopping a breakout or something, that could be quite cool. So it'd be interesting to see if that's something they explore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do have some similar worries as James, I must be honest.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Like I said, we didn't finish it, so we'll just have to see how it goes, I guess. If it's just here's some dinosaurs from that film, build a park every time, it will feel like a missed opportunity for sure.
I think we're both we're cautiously optimistic, definitely.
Yeah.
You have to be. I don't want to hype it up and then, nothing's fulfilled. But it does seem like they have the right idea, though.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited about that bit where we get to drive down the street as Ian Malcolm being chased by the Rex. It's going to be great. Yeah.
In first person as well, right?
Yeah, I know, yeah. The baby Rex roaring away in the background. It's going to be great.
So I feel like my next question is potentially poorly placed, because obviously we don't want to overhype things, but at the same time I do think it's worth us looking ahead to the future as well. So obviously, as Frontier have already confirmed, at the launch the game will have a mission for each film in the franchise. So I was interested to see, obviously, it seems like Frontier are very, very keen to push this new game mode as sort of one of the big deliverables of the new game. So is this mode something that you'd like to see them expand on in the future? So, say, for example, could we see different missions themed around different seasons of Camp Cretaceous, or some other extended media as well? I'll bring that to you, James. Is that something that you think there's scope for, or do you think it's going to be a lot more refined and maybe that more sort of I don't want to say core formula, but really sort of that more traditional gameplay that we're used to.
Right. Are we talking about, I think you're sort of referencing the Claire Deering DLC in a way that was sort of rescuing dinosaurs and putting them on a sanctuary island, wasn't it? And that sort of did become the same as everything else. I would love to see Kenji sort of, come into Evolution and the rest of the crew, but realistically, I'm not thinking that's going to happen, just because I would love to see more Camp Cretaceous. Maybe a separate game for that would be amazing. Some sort of more, third-person sort of adventure or whatever. But that, I mean, I think we saw the screenshot, didn't we, of the other what-ifs that we were going to have. And there was definitely a blank space where Dominion's going to come in. So,
what if Dominion released on time?
Yeah, if it doesn't get pushed back another year,
Yeah.
They'll definitely bring more in, I think. Now that I feel like they've tried and tested the DLCs and how that works, they're probably going to expand on it a little bit more.
Cool. Conor, do you have any ideas on what you'd want to see if it's a mode that gets expanded upon?
I mean, I'd like to see expansion to it, if I'm honest. I see, I mean, there's definitely a space for Dominion, as James says. That's definitely going to happen in that bottom right corner. Do I think we'll get things beyond that? It's a very nice page right now. If you have to scroll down, I think it would just ruin the whole aesthetic, you know? I would suspect we probably don't get more. I'd be open to it. Camp Cretaceous would be really interesting. They did shut that down for launch, of course. Maybe people have theorized, maybe when Camp Cretaceous is finished and it's all wrapped up, maybe it's something they could move towards. Again, not totally. I would lean towards that being unlikely. I don't think that really fits with what Frontier are looking for, but I don't really have a clue. I'm just kind of guessing. It'd be nice to see if, maybe the mode's a little bit, as it looks like it might be a little bit simple right now, and maybe they could do alternate things. Maybe you click on Jurassic Park and it takes you to another page and it's multiple scenarios from the film. They could expand it whilst keeping it to the same films we have. There's so many options already for Lost Worlds, where here on the mainland in San Diego, we could go back to Isla Sorna and, I don't know, have the game trail or something and kind of build around that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of thinking about it, actually, because then, say Jurassic Park, the obvious one is, what if Dennis Nedry actually delivers the Barbasol can? Then that opens up a whole new sort of story for them to explore, that they're not really restricted by anything. But then I guess at the same time, maybe there's the risk of that getting convoluted if they went too far down that path and sort of strayed from canon too far. So it's definitely a fine balancing act with this mode, I think, and I think it's got to sort of still have that homage to the films that will get people invested in it and making them want to play it.
Yeah, a bunch of unique buildings would be a nice start. It's good to see the legacy skins as well. I think they just need it's hard to bring in brand new game mechanics for single maps and stuff like that, but a little bit of that, we've got a helicopter shooting mechanic, having a rampaging Rex that you have to tame at the start, kind of aping the end of the Lost World would have been cool. Just little things like that. I'm sure they can. Who knows? We've only seen part of one. You never know what's out there.
Yeah, that is very true. So I really could honestly just sit and talk about Evolution as a whole with you guys for absolutely ages, because I think you guys play this so much that you really understand the mechanics, so it's really interesting hearing your perspectives on things and what you maybe want to see from it. But obviously the reason why this whole thing was born was because I put a tweet out asking people what they'd like to know about the recent gameplay that we got access to. So I do want to transition us over to those questions that were shared now, just to see if we can answer them, or if not, if we want to speculate on them a little bit. So to make it a little bit easier, I'll probably put a question out, and then if one of you wants to answer, and then the next person answers the next question, just to kind of keep it nice and simple so it doesn't get confusing. Now I've said it that way, it probably will get confusing, but we'll give it a go anyway. So the first question we got was from Maxwell_BSK on Twitter, and he asked what differentiates Chaos Theory mode from the other modes, and were there any rewards you noticed for completing each stage? So who would like to tackle that question?
Very eager, clearly.
Do I need to allocate people to each question?
That sounds like a
Dungeon
Beaver
Master,
question.
lead
If
the
I've
way.
ever heard it.
Okay, I'll lead the way. So I'll take it to you, James. So I think the second bit of the question, I think it's fair to say that none of us got the opportunity to progress enough to see if there were unique rewards for that mode, so we can't answer that at the moment. But I guess the question...
I mean, I can say that I got an achievement.
There you go.
That's the reward.
Nice.
So there are achievements in there. There you go. That's interesting. But yeah. What did you find differentiated Chaos Theory mode from the other modes, or did it not feel differentiated from them?
I would say that, or you're sticking with the movies, so you're going to have the characters there from said movies. That's a big one. And of course, scenarios. We're not dealing with. You could say Jurassic World Evolution was just Jurassic World, and a what ifs from that. But now the campaign will be its own new thing that we've never seen before, and it's all these possibilities of, will it lead on to the new movie? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to answer that, I don't know, man.
We'll go with it, we don't have all the answers, we just have more questions for you guys. That's it.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a challenge.
Our answers.
You'll come out of the podcast more confused than when you first started listening to it.
Yeah, that usually happens when I'm the person hosting, so it's all good. So this is, ironically enough, it's worked out, because this is one that you did reply to saying you could expand on, Conor.
No.
So Conor Ontology asked how the legacy skins work, and he was interested as to whether they are a pattern and therefore the colours of them can be changed, or whether they function as separate entities similar to how they functioned in Return to Jurassic Park.
Okay. First thing first, I would say, we said, about from the last question, rewards for completing each stage. The current speculation is that maybe these legacy skins will be the reward for completing the stages. So you complete Lost World, you get your Tiger Raptors, your Buck Rex, stuff like that. When I saw this question on Twitter, I thought, I know the answer to that, because I thought in my head that when I went to make a raptor, that the pattern button wasn't there. It literally wasn't there.
Yeah.
And therefore that wouldn't be an option. But just to double check for the purposes of this podcast, I went back and checked my footage, and I found the bloody pattern button staring at me. So, but all is not lost. So to try and scrape back a correct answer, I then went back to my older footage from the first gameplay session we did a couple of months back now, and I checked the release of... what was it? It was a dinosaur, anyway. And it also has the pattern button there, and the UI is exactly the same. However, on the legacy skin, the pattern button is more faded out than the pattern button on the other dinosaur, even though I didn't have a pattern unlocked on both. And I have the image saved on my PC as evidence of this. So, whilst it's not definite and I can test it properly, I am 90+% sure that you can't apply the pattern to the legacy skins. They work like the colours do, but they encompass the pattern and the colour in one thing. So I don't think we'll be changing them around or anything like that. I think they'll just be, you select the legacy skin and that's it.
Yeah,
there we go.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think in some ways, while it would be nice to have that customization element there, it also does sort of defeat the fact of it being a legacy skin, because then you're kind of taking that animal and changing it so it's not that animal anymore.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate you researching that as well. You're way more prepared for this show than I am. So that's
I did it for the sake of my own ego. Don't worry. Purely to protect myself.
I approve of that. So I'm going to combine the next couple of questions, and James, I'm going to apologise because they are very similar to the first question.
Oh, get in! I can't wait. It was lightly more faded.
But, basically,
attacked.
so both Jurassic Souls, I just got a gift from Zoom extending this meeting because I didn't realise that I don't have a premium account, so it would have stopped after 40 minutes. Great. Thank you, Zoom. Much appreciated. Anyway, so both Jurassic Souls and UTyrannus M were asking around the campaign, essentially, and they were interested in how different Chaos Theory mode felt from the campaign. So, yeah, I guess, did it feel different enough in your opinion, or like you've already said, did it feel like you crossed a certain threshold and then it kind of just meshed with all the other gameplay?
If I'm brutally honest, which I brutally honest, it did kind of feel similar. I think there are different mechanics though. I can't say because we've only played once in the Chaos Theory that none of it will be repeated, but capturing and relocating dinosaurs like in the wild seems to be something they're just keeping for the campaign though.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you're going to be able to, or how often you're going to make certain dinosaurs in campaign. Maybe with theory mode, you're going to do that more so. I think they're trying to focus on, dinosaurs being out there in the real world. Remember the end of Fallen Kingdom? That's what we're going with. So there's probably going to be different ways. I can't wait to fish up a mosasaur. That'll be interesting. But I think mechanically, it's probably where they're going to differentiate, I think, a little bit. Yeah. But it all melds in my head as one big Jurassic World Evolution pie.
That sounds like a good pie. I want a slice of it.
Oh.
This is the after hours Jurassic Park podcast.
This is post watershed right here.
After 10.
Oh boy. So Pixelated Sparkster also asked a few questions. I've grabbed a couple of them just to sort of balance it out so we've got the same amount of questions for everyone. So the first question that they asked was, do the dinosaurs feel more distinct from one another thanks to the new behaviours? So Conor, do you feel like there's a lot more variety in, say, the same animal as part of a pack this time around because of those behaviours?
Yeah.
Cool, moving on.
Nice.
Sorry, I wondered how long I could leave that before I had to try to say a little bit more. Yeah, dinosaurs feel much more differentiated from each other.
Yeah.
As in raptors from Rexes, or hopefully raptors from Dilophosaurus even. We saw different animations with the etc. That was... I actually did the
I'm just clipping that bit right there. Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually hear me in the first film. It's crazy. In terms of differentiation between a species, though, there is clearly an attempt at that. If you look at the genetics page, we've got this whole genetic system now where things can go wrong, or you can get random things like some dinosaurs are nocturnal, some are more social, some are more aggressive, stuff like that. Whilst that was the thing in both play sessions, I can't say I noticed it per se, but as we've already said, we were so intent on showing off so much stuff and getting through as much of the demo as possible and getting lots of things done that it was hard to focus on individual dinosaurs and kind of pay attention to them. So I think that's an interesting idea, like having... I don't know how nocturnal dinosaurs is going to work in sandbox and stuff, but besides the point... It's an interesting idea, and hopefully it'll make even individual dinosaurs that have the same animation set, etc., feel a little bit more unique from each other. But I think until we can play the game at a slightly more relaxed pace, it's going to be hard to know for sure.
Yeah, I think it's hard because a lot of the time when you're sort of confined in terms of the amount of time you spend with a game, you have so many different things that you want to look for, and it's kind of hard to take note of everything. Because I know for me, I started the building customization, and that was it. Like 30 minutes of my time was just spent messing around with buildings. Yeah. So yeah, I think you're right that these things will start to be a lot more prevalent once we actually get to sort of get into the nitty-gritty with the game and really play around with it. So the second question from the same person was, do you think that each Chaos Theory mode could have a signature item that you can then add to your park? So obviously in this particular mode, we've got the amphitheater for Jurassic Park San Diego. So do you think there could be something similar for each Chaos Theory sort of episode, for lack of a better word? And I'll pass that one over to you, James.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh no, we've hit
actually,
that point in the pod.
It's like a mirror. Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think it's weird actually. I'm getting flashbacks of Zoo Tycoon. Didn't you do this with missions and unlock like statues and stuff? But yeah. You're 100% right with the auditorium or the certain skins from that. Yeah, I think that would be a perfect reason to get people to play, and an obtainable one. To play the what ifs, because I think with the challenge mode in the first one, to do, do you want to do Jurassic 7 times or whatever it was, or 5 times, or yeah, I think they're right with that one.
Cool. So then Jurassic Korea asked, what do we think that the story for the JP3 Chaos Theory mode will be, since Jurassic Park 3 didn't have a park like Jurassic World or Jurassic Park? So Conor, what do you think? Do you have any speculation on what Jurassic Park 3's mode could be?
I do. I actually did a whole video speculating about what each film could be.
Okay, we'll cut to that here.
What, did you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I had
nice.
Beautiful hand-drawn, terrible hand-drawn drawings. It was, a while ago now. I want to just hop very quickly onto the last question. I know I'm throwing the whole thing out.
No, it's fine, go for it.
I'm sorry, James. Sorry. But
I haven't even looked at the document, mate.
Wait, hold up. You mean that Anonymous Fox and Anonymous Platypus, one of them isn't you, James?
I've been rumbled.
When we got the clip the other week with the Indominus Rex in it, we also got a shot of Isla Nublar and Jurassic World, and I think the implication was that is the chaos theory for Jurassic World, and it doesn't mean much. It's just some preview and stuff, but we couldn't see a unique building or anything in that park. Like, people were looking for like the T-Rex Kingdom or something like that, and we couldn't see anything on that image. It's not definite, but I'm a little concerned that unique building at least might not be a thing, but definitely.
Yeah, that would be a shame.
Anyways.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting observation.
JP3 Chaos Theory. So I had this whole thing, right? And this was back before we knew... I was kind of thinking this might be a more elaborate game mode, and it might still be, but my theory for JP3, because it is very weird, there's no park and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a what-if scenario, so let's say it's not a park, you're running a research facility, we know that's a thing in the game, you've got your park buildings and you've got research-style buildings, which are much less about guests. So it's less... you're running JP3, it's this research facility, you just gotta, make the JP3 dinosaurs, go through them all, make your raptors, make your Ankylosaurus, etc. But, you make a you don't make the Spinosaurus, it's already there. And it's like a rogue Spinosaurus, right?
Oh.
And every 10 minutes or so, it comes in from, this seems very optimistic now that I'm saying it out loud. But every 10 minutes or so, this rogue crazy Spinosaurus comes in and like wreaks havoc on your park, and you've got to shoot at it and scare it away back into the wilderness. So it's kind of like the park building aspect we've seen already, but there's a crazy Spinosaurus.
That would be quite
That's
cool.
about it. Yeah, that's all I got really. It's hard for JP3.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something quite similar to Secrets of Dr. Wu, where it's all about him and what experiments he's doing on Sauna. I think that might, in a similar vein to the research facility, I definitely think that's probably the direction they take it in.
I can see that. I just really hope Paul Kirby's... I just somehow hope they've got Paul Kirby in it. It would make my year. It really would.
Yeah,
they just
really... It's subverting expectation, because when you open it, it's just Paint and Tile Plus, and it's like... It's like a shopping simulator.
Oh, imagine. How good would that be? Yeah, the whole game actually just turns into this really elaborate shopping mall building.
Either that, or you open it up and it's like an animating software and you've got to animate the T-Rex killing the Spino instead. What if you change the movie?
Yeah. What if it's like Jurassic Park Warpath and you play as the T-Rex?
Yes!
Yeah, you just have to kill the Spinosaurus in combat.
So Frontier, if you're listening, please take notes. Yeah,
these are genuinely really good ideas.
Okay, so if you want to take that idea but just do it so you don't have to add any new mechanics, just make it so Paul Kirby is your ranger vehicle and he has to go around all of the facilities upgrading the toilets and plumbing inside so they match up to his business. There you go, sorted.
And that damn Don Spinosaur keeps on wrecking the plumbing. Keeps swimming in the toilet bowl.
So I think we've got JP3 Chaos Theory mode pretty much cracked, guys. I think that's what it's going to be. We've nailed it.
If this isn't what it is, I'll just be disappointed.
So next up we had, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Azarith K's Hana ask, will herbivores be fixed so they run from predators before launch? Or are they just going to continue to stand in one place until they die? James, what do you think?
Yay! I have something to say on this one. So I mean, I released a video talking about the pack hunting that Conor so graciously recorded, because no one else did, especially me. And I mean, I was just going over the stuff on Reddit as well, and I think there was a scene where the T-Rex is actually biting the Mamentosaurus, which is beautiful, which shows us consequences of, mixing certain species and all that jazz, not like the last one. But the parasaurs are running away in a herd formation. They're all running the same direction. So I can't wait for that. That's something that, I mean, I guess it was in JPOG, but that was just because it was a very basic AI. And it was like, danger there, run opposite way. And another thing I noticed, and I think they've been very clever about the way they've done the carnivores hunting the herbivores or prey items. You saw it a bit with the Carnotaurus, that sometimes it would charge towards the goat doing weird crab walks. And they would try to do the animation and it wouldn't get it quite right. So in the first one, you had like a carnivore and a herbivore, and they would sort of, turn away from each other or whatever and line up, and then the animation would play. Whereas now it seems like the carnivores go to kill the thing, and the herbivore gets sent a notification like, oh, I need to walk over this way. So instead of it being this, jagged thing where they sort of set up and then you see the exact moment that the animation starts playing, they've sort of blended it together to make it more seamless. So unless you're actually staring at that AI or that dinosaur, you're not really going to notice it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's something actually that I noticed in a lot of the initial gameplays that you guys put out, was that sudden switch with the animals where they change path and you could see them suddenly flip around and start walking the other direction. And I didn't notice that as much when I was playing it this time around. So it definitely seems like they're trying to address those movements and sort of smooth them all out so they feel a lot more organic.
Oh, we don't know how old this build is either.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah.
Can I jump in on that again?
Yeah, go for it.
You should just always assume
Conor,
I've got so much to say. So one of the problems, I actually said the dinosaurs run away fine when they're being hunted.
Yeah.
It's when the attacking starts is when they lock into place. If you watch my video, all the parasaurs are running initially. They got that little notification, you're about to die. It's like a morbid Facebook. But once the first raptor latches on, the para then sort of stands still and the raptors swarm it and the animations play out. And it's all dynamic, but the problem people have is that the para just kind of stands there.
Yeah.
Once it's begun, because it's not a one-hit kill, and the raptors kind of swarm around and they do their thing. I don't think that's a problem, and I don't think that'll change. I think the problem is right now, if you watch it with the parasaur in particular, it's standing there, and that's fine, because it's kind of trying to defend itself, but it kind of just looks a little... It's very chilled. It's about to die, and it just doesn't care. It's a millennial. It's very relaxed
just given
about the
up.
Situation.
It's it's going to happen anyway. I'm just going to let it...
It's completely done.
Get it over with. In some cases, it just flops over and dies. I'll do it.
Yeah. It's literally thinking, oh, finally. I've been waiting for this. I think all it needs to be fixed isn't, doesn't need to run, doesn't need a big change. It just needs an aggressive stance. It needs to, cry out. It needs to stomp around a little bit. It just needs animations beyond just sort of waiting to die, basically. If it had more of a defensive attitude or aggressive attitude, I don't think anyone would really care. So hopefully that's something they take on board, and if they do that, I think it'll be perfectly fine. That'll be post-launch, if I had to guess.
the more animations, the better. I mean, if you think about it, like a pack of wolves taking on, a buffalo or whatever it is, there does come a point where it will turn and try and fend them off, and that's kind of what the para's trying to do. You see it roll over and get them off, and the more animations, the better, I think.
Yeah.
The kick is very satisfying when it connects, it must be said.
It should be dead. The raptor should be dead.
I really hope, if someone's suggesting it doesn't even hurt them, I don't know how we know that, I don't think we checked, but as long as that can kill a raptor, that's definitely a good step in the right direction.
Oh, I think it will, definitely.
Yeah,
it just needs to, instantly ragdoll.
Yeah, just fly halfway across San Diego,
That sounds like a good mod.
There we go. Somebody make it so.
Kyodenic, if you're listening, it's on you, buddy, okay?
So we had K-Babs on TV ask a little bit more about the balance between dinosaur wrangling and how much of it is dinosaur wrangling and how much of it is theme park building. So James, I know you touched on this briefly earlier when we were talking about the distinction between campaign and this mode specifically. So do you think that the bulk of the game is going to be theme park building again then, essentially?
I think what they've done is they've expanded out both areas. So it's up to you if you want to be, micromanaging and get the right scientists and really, fire them and get levels up and stuff like that. You can do that. But also if you just want to just be with the dinosaurs, you don't want to speed through it like we did. Because I know I barely looked at my dinosaurs. You can do that as well because they're satisfying to look at now.
Yeah.
So the question is, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, actually, because there are so many features in it. I just realised as well, Conor, you chipping in there has completely ruined my running order. Because I asked James 2 questions.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, no, you.
I've been sitting here just silently crying for the last 30 seconds.
Well, it's fine. You get the next question now. So the same person also asked, do those new management additions that we've got, so things like the scientist, the ranger check-ins, all of that kind of stuff, make the game more complex? And do you think that makes it slightly overwhelming? Because I know a big sort of element about Evolution, really, the first game, was its accessibility and the fact that maybe it didn't have as enhanced levels of customization as other games to keep it accessible. So do you feel like that's changed with the sequel, or is it still pretty manageable?
Okay.
And this is for you to clarify, Conor.
In a surprise move, I have something to say about the last question as well.
Go for it.
Very quick thing though, and that is, I can't remember what we read, but there was a comment made somewhere that definitely suggested the campaign is going to be very heavily on this dinosaur wrangling kind of side, just like honing on the actual question. That campaign's going to be very much that kind of thing. I would, maybe you'll build a park in like the final level or something. Episode. YouTube. But generally speaking, I think it's going to be much more like what we've seen already in Washington, and then if you want to do park building, it'll be Challenge, Sandbox, and Chaos Theory.
Cool.
I think. Right. Question. What was the question? Oh, right. I mean...
By the way, I've just crapped all over all of you. You're getting out my question.
James, you just want to leave. It's okay.
I'll answer it.
Sorry. I feel bad.
No, go ahead.
Guilt. I swear I've gone red.
It's fine, we're all good. Would you like me to ask you the question again? Would that help?
No, I've got it. I've got the sheet up. It's okay. So, as I said before, I actually was a little overwhelmed initially because the scientist juggling alone, I think, adds a lot to the game. But I think, again, part of that was, trying to showcase everything, trying to get through everything as quickly as possible, not really giving yourself a second to breathe. I had 2 shots of this gameplay session in San Diego because my first session was I was dead, basically. It was a disaster. Don't recommend it. I don't know what the Parasol office is thinking because it wasn't fun. But that first session, I went bankrupt after about a couple of hours, and I went properly bankrupt. There was no breakout or anything. I just ran out of money, and I couldn't claw it back. I think this game, it's a lot harder to make money than it was in the last game, it was quite easy to make. Like, once you got past the initial half hour, it was very easy to just have the cash rolling in. I think that'll be reined back in this game because you're spending money constantly on scientists and training and refilling generators, and now you've got to refill your jeeps as well and their food supply, not food supply for the jeeps.
Those jeep prices are going up nowadays as well, right?
With the petrol prices as they are, yeah, we're gonna get like.
Hey guys, it's no longer jeeps. We don't have the license.
Yeah, sorry, Jeep are gonna come after us.
I'll just beep all of that out.
Brand. Yeah, so you've got to refill your unnamed vehicle brands. You've got to give them food supply, all this kind of stuff, and so I don't think it's complex because nothing you do is complex. It's all still fairly basic stuff, but now there's a lot more of it, and we're speeding up time to get through the sort of dead times. I think if you let it will become slightly overwhelming. I think if you chill out a little bit and just take things as they come and don't try to do everything immediately, I don't think people will struggle. I don't think they'll find it particularly difficult. I think it's not complex, it's just more to do, basically. I think people will get used to it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's just getting used to the fact that you kind of can't leave it going on in the background while you do something else this time around. You need to be a little bit more attentive to everything that's going on in the game. So, James, Conrad Cohen asked if we think that characters such as Ludlow, Billy Brennan or Simon Masrani could return for cameos in this mode. Do you think that we might see some of those in the other sort of Chaos Theory... Again, I don't want to use the word episodes, but my brain can't think of anything else. Scenarios. Do you think we'll see characters like that in other scenarios, or do you think it will be a bit like the two in this scenario where they're made up characters?
I mean, if what they're saying is are the characters going to be there, or are the actors going to reprise their roles? I don't think the actors will, of course, especially when it comes to Masrani, unfortunately. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Chris Not Pratt, like we've gotten, we'll put his picture up there and just howdy y'all.
Spot on. I thought Chris Pratt had joined the show,
It's crazy.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm so good. Yeah, definitely. I think they'll definitely be. They know that people are playing the Chaos Theories and deliberately. They've got Jurassic Park 3. They've got the Lost World because they know what the fans like, and that's the auditorium which was there in San Diego. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have in Jurassic Park 3 the rundown lab where what's he called? He doesn't hit a vending machine and Billy shows him up. Sort of, that area will probably be there. There'll be a lot of little Easter eggs here and then. Cameos will definitely be part of it, I think.
Cool. Connor, do you have anything to add before your actual question?
I do, funnily enough.
Go for it.
His calling of Paul Kirby as what's his name has hurt me to my core. That's unacceptable, quite frankly. Deeply upsetting stuff right there. As I am number one in the Paul Kirby fan club, I'm just saying.
You need to update the Twitter bio to that now.
I actually might do that.
Proud Paul Kirby fan enthusiast.
We should start a proper fan club, get him in the game. I've got to be honest, that's what I expected initially. Obviously, they're not going to get the actors back, because getting all those people back, and obviously you can't for some of them at all. For Masrani, for Dodgson, you're definitely not getting Kim back either. I think, given the negative reception to Chris Pratt, or Chris Pratt, as we'll call him, I guess.
Pratt!
And given that in this Lost World Chaos Theory we had Malcolm back, but he's all over the game. It was new people. I don't think we'll see Ludlow or Billy and maybe the scenarios there, but are we going to see those characters come back? I would have said yes before I saw this Chaos Theory, but given they didn't come back for this Chaos Theory, it makes me suspect that the other ones that'll be Malcolm, Pratt, Deering, relevant characters, but no new old characters, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Nobody
that wasn't in the last game, basically.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Jurassic Park 3, though, we don't have Ian Malcolm. So who's gonna be? It would be a bit weird if we're on that island and
maybe
we're just
the Chris
talking
Pratt actor will do a Sam Neill voice as well.
You should just do every voice in the game. Yeah.
I'd pay for that as a DLC,
Bless him, he tries his best.
That's an interesting point, but I don't know about you, but I didn't get the impression from the Chaos Theory Lost World that it was taking place in 1994 1995? When was Lost World? 1995?
I think 7, yeah.
1997. It's a number, anyway.
It's one of them.
It's old.
Somewhere before 2000.
Yeah. I didn't get the impression it was taking place then. I got the impression it was a modern scenario. Oh, maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm talking nonsense. Oh, I don't know anymore. Anyways, I feel like the what ifs are going to be quite removed from the film in a weird way, and that I don't know if that would be a problem. It'll be like maybe we'll get Sexy Cabot back, and he'll go back to Isla Sorna to try and make a research facility. That seems like something Sexy Cabot would do.
Well, you could always have it. So Jurassic Park 3 could be, what if Hurricane Clarissa never struck Isla Sorna, and that just became the factory floor for Jurassic World earlier than it actually did in the lore?
Yeah,
they could do something as simple as that.
I mean,
But that would turn it back into a park sim.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, that is
because you would just be making dinosaurs to ship off.
Yeah.
And I don't want that.
Yeah, if we're being optimistic, Billy's back and Eric's back and Paul Kirby's back and Amanda's
back. She just screams randomly at different intervals in the game.
Oh, right. You know how Ian Malcolm shoots down everything that you do? Everything is a terrible idea. What we have Ian Malcolm there saying, oh, this is a bad idea, this is a bad idea. And all we do, Amanda only has one line. Every time Malcolm says something's a bad idea, she goes, what's a bad idea? And that's it. Every single time.
Or she's screaming Eric all the time.
Yeah, you just hear it in the distance when you like hover over the forest. You hear a little Eric. That'd be good as well. I'd be down for that.
That would be the best Easter egg of all time.
I'd like to see some little things like that. Like if we have a Spinosaurus. My concern is I think back to Isla Sorna in Jurassic World Evolution 1.
Yeah.
Which, we had the wild dinosaurs. It was like a new thing for evolution. It was super exciting. And then it was a Spinosaurus and 20 Stegosauruses and nothing else. And it was super disappointing. Never mind the mountain in the middle. That was fine. The wild dinosaurs was super disappointing. And I hope there's just more to it than that this time. Like, if we have a Spinosaurus in JP3 Chaos Theory, have it make a little ringtone noise every now and again.
That would be really
that
cool.
would be great.
Yeah.
There's no reason that can't be that much work, but people would super appreciate it.
I actually, Frontier, if you do want to do that, get in touch with Daryl Lee Lin, because he has a ringtone version of that very phone. So it is my phone ringtone now, and it catches me out anytime it goes off, because I forget that I set it to that and wonder if I'm about to get eaten. And lastly, on the question front, we had the Dino Hunter ask whether guests are still... I think what he's trying to say with this is, do guests across the park broadly just represent the total number of guests, and is that it? They just spawn amenities, they're walking around, they're not doing anything specific, or do they have unique AI depending on whether they're one of the different categories that's now present in the game? So Conor, that's your question to round us out.
Genuinely surprised you remembered. So much. No, from what we've seen, guests are still... Essentially, I'd always call them ghosts in the first game. They don't exist.
Yeah.
They're basically a spreadsheet.
They're moving snacks.
Yeah, it's just... I mean, the problem is there's so many of them. It's not like, you think back to J-Park, every guest was, they had a name and a location they were from and likes and dislikes and all this kind of stuff, and that was really cool. But when you've got Evolution and you've got hundreds and thousands of guests walking around the park, that kind of level of detail in AI, I think, becomes impossible to do.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, I'm not a game dev, I don't really know. But it sounds like it would be very difficult to handle for, especially last-gen consoles. So, yeah, I mean, the guest is one area of the game I'd love to see some improvement, just to make them a bit more interesting, but they do seem to be the same mathematic ghosts as the last time, unfortunately.
Yeah, and just to echo that, I didn't notice any difference, and I would assume that when you go on your hot map for where you need amenities, that's basically where the guests you're going to see are going to be.
Yeah.
They're not going to be in a part of the path that's got nothing, basically. Yeah.
They're not just going to be over in the trees that are in the corner of the map doing nothing, looking for things.
Yeah. They're not going to need the toilet, and you're like, turn around, the toilet's that way, like a J-Pog.
It's right behind you.
Oh, I miss those days.
They just need to make guests more stupid in a way, you know, make them walk into random... At the moment, they do the thing where they point at something, and people used to think they were pointing at dinosaurs. In reality, they're pointing at anything. It's just like it's a giant...
They'll be walking past a tree and point at it and be like, oh my god, look at the tree!
Or
it's
a nice concrete wall, you know,
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like a comment on maybe our dystopian future where we don't even have trees. And they're like, wow, look at that. That's a tree.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Jurassic World is now the only place you can see trees.
Yeah. Then next you'll be releasing them, the conifers and everything.
Oh boy, what a lovely note to end this episode on, right? Jurassic World Evolution 2 just represents the fact that there's a very dystopian future coming for us all.
Woohoo!
Official headcanon now, yeah, definitely. To be fair, in the game, Dua, what's her first name? Does anyone remember?
Doctor.
Yeah.
I really hope her name is Dr. Dua. But Dr. Dua is like head of a department at the CIA, and she's a crazy megalomaniac, so, you know, the end of the world seems pretty inevitable, to be honest.
Let's hope they weren't based on real life people.
Much worse,
So on a serious note though, that does actually round out all of the questions that we had for this evening. There were a couple of others over on the Twitter, but obviously we've been going for an hour, and I don't really want to take up any more of your time. I do want to say a huge thank you to everyone who popped questions in over on Twitter. I think there were some really interesting and thought-provoking ones. And definitely a lot of questions that Conor enjoyed as well, so thank you for that. Guys, it's been a blast. I really, really do appreciate you making this happen at such short notice. You know, like I said before we started recording, it was literally just going to be me talking to myself this evening, but it's been really nice actually getting to talk to you guys and also get to know you a little bit more as well, because I feel like we're always like ships passing each other, but we never really cross over, so it's been great getting to talk about evolution a little bit with both of you, so thank you for that.
Very romantic.
What can I say? I'm in here with a couple, right? You know?
It's a good point.
So before we get out of here, why don't you guys let our listeners know where they can find you if they don't know already? So Conor, if you let us know where people can find you first, not actually find you in real life, online of course.
I was about to say, the right people know how to find me.
But yeah, feel free to go ahead, and then James, if you let people know after as well.
Yeah, you can find me at... tell you blimmin' what. Right, this is going to be very slow as I do something. You can find me at youtube.com/channel/UCW821. No, I got that wrong already. Never mind that. If you just search BestInSlot, you'll find me or some World of Warcraft stuff, I'm sure. On Twitter, BestInSlots, big uppercase YT at the end, and I'm pretty sure I'm on Facebook, but I wouldn't recommend it. I've not posted in about 6 years. And you can find me in the clubs on Saturday night.
Nice.
You can't really, no.
Not this Saturday night.
I've got it Saturday night. Oh, no.
Unless you're at the club.
Do you suddenly need to go?
Explain a lot. I've had a few drinks. All right, there you go. Podcast explained. Yeah, but that's it. I'm not really Twitter, YouTube. There you go. That's it.
Cool. And James, what about you?
I was also here. You can find you can find me
also in the club.
I'm also the club. If you type in GamingBeaver on any social media, I would assume I'm the only one there. So yes, that's GAMI. No, GamingBeaver. You got it. Sort of YouTube, Twitter, all that jazz. I think.
Cool.
Find me.
Beautiful. That was very close to the mic. I enjoyed that.
Did you like that?
Can you just send me this clip? I don't want any of the rest, just this bit.
Yeah. So with all of that said, guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of The Game Trail, and I'm sure we'll be back in the future with plenty more content around Jurassic World Evolution 2. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on the game when it releases this November by getting in touch. You can find the Jurassic Park Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course on YouTube. Plus you can visit JurassicParkPodcast.com. Thank you for listening, and enjoy.